Hello everybody and welcome. Thanks for joining us again for another gassing on, and we're going to be piping on this week. Had a few inquiries in about people looking at service ducts, pipe penetrations, etc. So I thought I'd just put some of this content together. Now, some of you might have come across the YouTube clip I put out a few weeks ago now about the detailing. I'm just going to run the clip. Um, where this was actually one of my MVQ learners was doing some VOC barrier, and they set a really good example here of how close they've cut into the pipe and leaving a small upstand. So rather than seeing lots of big voids, which is unfortunately commonplace, you see a lot of technicians just cutting the openings and then reliant on the self adhesive. This particular example was really good, and it was consistent all the way through the building. So it's quite rewarding when you see that. And in this instance, we could see self adhesive was being used as well. So um, really positive stuff. And I have seen a few learners since comment on this, saying how we expected to get the pipes in that close. Well, bit of practice, bit of patience, and skills that are required. We should be doing a good job. So when I often go out on site and I see this scenario happening, where detailing is done with a kind of finger formation here, and if I follow on, we can see that the pipe here, I've highlighted the red points where the weak spots are. Um, Again, number of verifiers that might not pick up on this because they're not watching the detailing being done, or they're just reliant on seeing the finished product. So it's making that call. Again, looking at method statements, how detailed are they in the method of working? So we are seeing conflicting methods being carried out on this particular detail. But as we can see here, this is on a service duct. It's not on a regular um, soil vent pipe, waste pipe. So slightly different scenario because the detailing round there, yes, it's critical, but we've got bigger problems. So I bring this slide in here. We can see a lovely cluster of pipe services, water pipes within service ducts, all clustered together, and we can see they're just by that wind post there. Pretty horrible job for the technician. How are they going to detail that? So I start asking questions at this point. Has somebody designed that um, in that formation and had considerations of how gas protection is going to be implemented in that building? So that's quite a high risk area. And if I was to look at a drawing, I dare say they'd be spaced out quite nice and tidy. But in that particular scenario, in real life, they're just clustered in any way they can get them in. Like we can see, this formation looks a bit tidier. And is this a design consideration? Well, I think it definitely should be. So here we can see a lot of nice kind of standard detailing done to the bases of these service ducts. But those that are familiar with handling these service ducts, the seals on these, particularly where I'm indicating at the moment, isn't airtight. It's not sealed. There's no gaskets. They're quite a loose fit. So when these are slotted in, you can imagine under the floor, these are running to different locations. Has there been consideration in that? And I'll look at that again in a bit when I show you a cross section of pipe details. But the critical thing is, are we aware of that pathway that still exists? So these service ducts are going to act as lovely um, uh, main routes into the building, main pathway. So we're trying to do all this good work, putting membranes and sealing up as much as we can. But if we're leaving big voids, there's going to be a problem. So here's an idea that we came about on site, and we had a few discussions. So what we did with the engineer, obviously we take the building, the footprint was already kind of laid out, and we looked at those service ducts that were coming through, and we had a discussion about, well, do they really need to be inside the building? In this particular instance, it was an industrial commercial building, medium size, not a warehouse size. It was actually a pumping room for a sewage treatment work, so there was a lot of electrical products going in there. So we said, what were the options of possibly relocating the pipes outside the building, and then so we eliminate the risk from the inside, move it to the outside, and then possibly enclose them and put some louvered cupboard doors, so there was good ventilation in there. Also access for, you know, working. It was less restricted if for future expansion. And we always know what happens with these service ducts. You know, people want to put other pipes in there. So here we can see an example of a service duct that's had a water pipe brought into a building, and the installer in this particular instance has just kind of wrapped it with the self-adhesive product. But as you can see, there's voids and openings in here, which certainly the Verify picked up. So, and also bearing in mind that's going to be visible inside the building, so not very good for the occupants in a property. So some verifiers have actually talked about using, I've got an open cell foam here, kind of foam that you buy from B&Q, but like, I don't know if you can see it close enough, but there's a lot of bubbles and air pockets within there. Also, it's resistant to the chemicals or the contaminants in the ground. So the open cell foams are a little bit vulnerable. But there's other options as well where we've seen the polyurethane. So these are kind of two-part mixtures. Try and hold that so you can see it. Looks a bit like a shot glass, doesn't it? But some of these are used in these situations to allow for the voids to be completely, they're blocked at the bottom first with a kind of capping layer, and then these resins or polyurethanes are poured in. So as you can see, there's no voids, no air pockets in that at all. So the other consideration we have to have is about, well, we can see a nice batch of service ducts running here. Again, looks like they've actually brought them out under the building. We can see a lintel there on the external face of some brickwork. So hopefully there's consideration to bring either enter the building this way, or they've brought them out that way. But there's always going to be the consideration of future expansion. So when a designer of a building and they're putting the M&E services in, will we be able to get more cables, more pipes, more data into the building at a later date? So consideration, if we do use these products, how are they going to be you know, worked on? Will somebody be aware of that? So as I mentioned earlier on, looking at cross sections of drawings where we had the service ducts coming in, here I'm just indicating where there could be couplers, jointing systems. And previously I've actually worked on these when the drainage, or the, well, it's not drainage, when the ducts are being laid, that these are actually sealed as they're being installed, so it prevents any ingress of gas through the pipe and exiting at the joints. Okay, hopefully we've got the capping layer on there on the floor level or under the screed levels, but we've always got these vulnerable points at any junctions. So looking at the drawings, the designer's thinking beyond just getting a service in, but what's that service doing? Is it, you know, for water? Is it going to possibly be a pathway? Also writing it into our method statements and being quite defined in what's needed there. And likewise, we'd hope the verifiers will pick up on this in their verification of the design, that they're looking at all these little elements and maybe questioning it, saying, has somebody thought about service ducts? What is the approach that's going to be taken? And that's all written into the method statement. And likewise, the operation and the maintenance manuals for properties that are handed over and managed, you know, are they aware of the ground gas conditions that are in there? And if they do need to break open these services, break open the polyurethanes or the capping layers that are designed in, are they going to be reinstated? Is somebody aware of that? So I thought I'd pop them out there. There's obviously a lot more content we could put into these. I try and keep them short and sweet, but hopefully that's helped you. And by all means, if you've got any questions, please come and find me, have a chat. Look forward to hearing from you all, and well, I'll see you next time for another Gassing On. Cheers now, bye.